Are you prepared to hear the shocking reality? What if we tell you that the disappearance of one of the world's most historic rivers coincided with a surprising discovery? An ancient river that has been flowing for thousands of years has suddenly dried up, and a mythical ancient giant has been uncovered in the area. Stay tuned as we investigate the shocking finding of Gilgamesh, the hero of Mesopotamian mythology, and the puzzling disappearance of the Euphrates River. What mysteries will be exposed? You will regret it if you miss out on this one, so let's get started. The Tigris River and the Euphrates River come together to form the Shatt al-Arab River, which eventually empties into the Persian Gulf. The Euphrates River travels through Syria and Iraq on its way to its meeting with the Tigris River. Its origins can be found in Turkey. It is the longest river in Western Asia, stretching for approximately 1,740 miles in total length. Euphrates is the name given to the Euphrates in Armenian. Perat is the name given to it in modern Hebrew. Frat is the name given to it in Turkish, and Firat is the name given to it in Kurdish. The name in Mandaic is Pra, and it is frequently referred to as Praziwa in Mandaean scriptures like the Ginza Rabbah. The pronunciation of this name is Fraziwa. According to the scriptures of the Mandaeans, the Euphrates River is seen as the physical representation of the Yardna, or river that flows in heaven. The ancient towns of Babylon, Ur, and Nineveh were all found along the banks of the Euphrates River in what is now known as Mesopotamia. The Euphrates played an important part in the evolution of human civilization, particularly in that region of the world. In addition, throughout history, the river has served as a natural boundary between several governments and empires, making it a region that has been considered both crucial and contentious. There are several references to the Euphrates River in the Bible, and these may be found in both the Old and New Testaments. It is frequently depicted as an important landmark and stands as a symbol of power and majesty of ancient empires. The Garden of Eden and the location where humanity originated are both mentioned in the Old Testament, and the Euphrates River is mentioned in both. Additionally, it is listed as one of the 4 rivers that flowed out of Eden after the Garden of Eden was created. Additionally, because the river served as a natural boundary for the country that has been promised to the Israelites, it was illegal for them to travel across the river. In terms of researching Mesopotamian history and mythology, the finding of the statue of Gilgamesh marks a significant turning point in the journey. In ancient Near Eastern literature, Gilgamesh is one of the most well-known characters. One of the locations from which the kings of the East will collect their troops prior to the Battle of Armageddon is mentioned to be the Euphrates River in the New Testament. This is one of the locations referenced. In addition, the river is reported to have dried up in the book of Revelation so that the kingdoms of the East would be able to march across it without obstruction. There are only a few references to Gilgamesh in writings that are not in cuneiform. Some 100 years after it was first noted by George Smith, the flood tale from the Gilgamesh epic continues to be the most overt relationship between the Hebrew Bible and the Mesopotamian epic narrative. The account of the flood that can be found in the biblical text is not, however, the only connection between the two pieces of ancient literature that we study today. A manuscript from the Dead Sea Scrolls called the Book of Giants may contain the name of the heroic protagonist of the Gilgamesh epic. Since Gilgamesh is the intrepid protagonist of one of the world's earliest epics, we might consider him to be the grandparent of all the other heroic figures, both ancient and modern, who have come after him. The Epic of Gilgamesh, which originates from ancient Mesopotamian and is considered a literary classic, tells his story. The epic revolves on the travels of the legendary Gilgamesh, a king traditionally portrayed ruling over Uruk, an area in modern-day Iraq, circa 2700 BCE. The recent rediscovery of the epic was a defining event in the development of our knowledge of the ancient Near East. It was also a turning point in the way that we approach the study of the Hebrew Bible going forward. The fact that legends of Gilgamesh have been passed down through the years in a variety of forms and languages is evidence of the character's widespread appeal across the ancient Near East and beyond. In archaeological digs conducted in locations ranging from Iraq to Turkey and Megiddo, pieces of the text's original copy have been uncovered. It is a widely held belief that the authors of the Hebrew Bible were familiar with the tale of Gilgamesh and used this knowledge to inspire references and contrasts within the text of the Hebrew Bible. Talking back in time, archaeologists working in Iraq in 2003 purportedly the idea that they may have found the lost tomb of Gilgamesh. Gilgamesh was the ruler of the ancient Sumerian city of Uruk and was the protagonist in the earliest documented story in the annals of human history. In the 3rd millennium BC, the story known as the Epic of Gilgamesh was written down on clay tablets in the Sumerian language. Around the middle of the 27th century BC, the narrative served as a memorial for the life of the individual who ruled the city of Uruk at the time in question. Uruk was not only one of the oldest cities in the region, but also one of the most powerful and one that survived the longest. It is possible that the modern nation of Iraq got its name from this very city. However, the validity of that claim is contested. The account of Gilgamesh's search for immortality, as well as his adventures and conflicts against a variety of mythical animals, are told in the Epic of Gilgamesh. In 2003, an expedition that was led by Germany announced that it had found what was believed to be the entirety of the city of Uruk, including the final burial place of its legendary ruler. This location is one in which the city would have been surrounded by the waters of the Euphrates before the river changed its course. According to George Fassbinder, head of the Bavarian Department of Historical Monuments in Munich, "I don't want to say definitely that it was the grave of Gilgamesh, but it looks very similar to that described in the epic." Fassbinder made these comments. Gilgamesh is said to have been laid to rest beneath the Euphrates in a tomb that was probably built after the waters of the old river split following his passing, according to the account that was written on a set of clay tablets that had been carved with inscriptions. The story was preserved by being written on clay tablets. Mr. Fassbinder stated that we found just outside the city an area in the middle of the former Euphrates River, the remains of such a building, that could be interpreted as a burial. He explained that the remarkable discovery of the ancient city buried beneath the sands of the Iraqi desert had been made possible by technological advancements. Mr. Fassbinder continued by saying that one can look into the ground by analyzing variances in the magnetization of the soil. The differentiation that can be seen in the Euphrates between the mud bricks and the sediments provides a very detailed structure. Venice in the sands of time. Mr. Fassbinder noted that the most astonishing thing was that they found structures that had already been depicted in the Gilgamesh epic. "We traversed an area that was greater than 100 hectares. We have discovered garden structures and field structures that correspond to those described in the epic, as well as Babylonian dwellings." However, he continued by saying that the most surprising discovery was an extremely complex network of canals. "It is very obvious to us that flooding caused some of the dwellings to be destroyed, since we can see structures in the canals that indicate this. This indicates that a highly developed system formerly existed here. It was like Venice, but in the middle of the desert." The names of the rivers Tigris and Euphrates may be found in several historical writings from the past, and they are even included in predictions about the future. These rivers have been around for as long as anybody can remember. The Tigris River finally meets up with the Euphrates River and flows into the Persian Gulf in the lowlands in an area known as Shatt al-Arab. This area is located in close proximity to the Euphrates River. These two rivers, along with the River Nile in northeastern Africa, provide the Fertile Crescent, which is a region of the Middle East that is known for its rich soil and is considered to be the cradle of civilization. Both rivers are known well for their connections to Mesopotamia, which is a territory located between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates and is part of the Fertile Crescent. Mesopotamia is also known as the territory between the rivers. Both the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers are mentioned in ancient texts such as the Bible and the Hadith throughout the process of creation. They are also included in prophecies concerning the end of time, which is more evidence of how long these rivers have been around. However, for the past few years, the major rivers Tigris and Euphrates in the Middle East have been suffering one of the lowest levels in their entire history. As a result of human activity and climate change, there is a risk that both rivers may go completely dry over the next 2 decades. The river's decline to the point where it is no longer navigable has also had a substantial effect on the surrounding environment. The basin of the Euphrates River is home to a vast number of plant and animal species, the majority of which are threatened with extinction. The depletion of water supplies has resulted in the elimination of certain species as well as the destruction of their habitats. The river is also essential to the process of keeping the biological balance of the area intact, and the fact that it has been allowed to run dry has upset this equilibrium. Despite this, the drought did bring about some positive side effects, most notably in the field of archaeology. Numerous artifacts dating back thousands of years are currently being uncovered from the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, the most notable of which is a city that was constructed 3,400 years ago, when the water levels in the Mosul Reservoir, which is located in northern Iraq and was formerly known as Saddam Dam, dropped earlier this year as a result of the great drought that is currently present in the area. This settlement erupted from the waters of the Tigris River. More specifically, the Mosul Reservoir. Archaeologists have unearthed ruins and artifacts that date back to the Mitanni Empire era of the Bronze Age, namely between 1550 and 1350 BC. They also believe that the urban center, which contains massive buildings and palaces, may have been an ancient metropolis called Zahiku. The Mitanni Empire was once a tremendously affluent kingdom similar to the likes of Assyria, Egypt, and Babylon. It dominated over the northern Euphrates Tigris region and spanned from present-day northern Iraq all the way through Syria and into Turkey. However, it eventually fell into decline and was eventually conquered by the Akkadian Empire. In this kingdom, there was a class-based system, and the class that held the reigning power was called the Marianu. Their undoing was hastened by the invasion and occupation of their territory by countries located in close proximity to them. These kingdoms aimed to loosen their grip on the large trade routes that they controlled. The city was astonishingly well preserved despite being composed of unfired clay, and it withstood more than 40 years of being submerged. This was due to the fact that archaeologists acted fast in order to map the city, as they feared that the water levels in the dam would once again begin to rise. An earthquake around the year 1350 BC was responsible for the destruction of the city that was found in Mosul Dam. The city was eventually drowned as a result of the rising water levels caused by the construction of the dam in the 1980s. On the Euphrates side of things, the receding waters have unearthed more than 80 historical sites, some of which include jails and cemeteries that belong to the ancient city of Telbas and date back to before Christ. Among these sites are the remains of old buildings. According to Shafakna Persian, the Telbas prison was originally a cluster of burials from the time of the Assyrians. Rivers continue to be productive, despite the fact that their existence may one day be threatened. Even though these great resources are in danger of being lost, we continue to be allowed access to them. If the water levels in these two rivers continue to drop, we will continue to find more historical relics and sites that have a different significance to the globe, but doing so will come at a significant financial cost. That's all for the video today. We will be right back with more such astounding information. Until then, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to our content. Thank you so much for watching today, and we will see you in our next video.